Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the SSK Cyber Club. For our new viewers joining us today, SSK stands for Smarter, Safer, and Kinder Online. We started this club to talk about big issues and to build community around this very important topic. Today's episode of SSK is being sponsored by Cromoti Education. Cromoti is perfect for educators and parents who want to help set their kids up to be better digital citizens. By using cutting-edge software, Cromoti helps users evaluate online content, build media and digital literacy skills, and flex their critical thinking muscles when consuming information online. This episode is being recorded, so you can always come back later, watch it again, share it with your friends, share it with anyone you think that would value from this, and you can always point them to the Cromoti Education YouTube page as well. I'm your host, Paige Whitson. I'm a business and operations coordinator, and I have 8 nieces and nephews. So I find these sessions to be particularly valuable. I love coming on here and learning alongside with you all. And I'm very pleased to be joined again today by Sean. Sean Campbell is a publishing industry veteran who's been working in edtech for over 15 years. So welcome, Sean.
Hey, Paige, thank you so much for having me back. Once again, I love talking digital literacy and having a chance to say hi.
Yeah, thank you. This is great. And Sean, your kids in school, I can't remember how old your kids are.
They are, so 7 and 5. So they're actually born 22 months apart, which makes them 1 grade apart, just by chance. So one's in grade 1 and one's in kindergarten.
Okay, excellent. And so are they home now for the holidays?
Yeah, I was going to say, and they're home, so you might meet them.
Yeah, they'll probably be running around.
There's potential for that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And thanks so much for having me. Today, we're going to talk a bit about improving, making for more positive screen time for kids. And all of us maybe too, right? I think we all, it's a huge part of our lives and certainly for our kids. And there are lots of really cool things that we can do to make it a more positive experience instead of just that kind of like babysitter for the kiddos when we desperately need it as parents. But I was thinking, Paige, like, is there something that you think of that you use your phone for that's really, really positive for you?
Yeah, I think, the time that I feel like I'm using my phone in the most positive way is definitely when I'm using it to connect with friends and family and loved ones and just check in what's going on, because I don't live in my hometown anymore, which is where like most of my family, a lot of my nieces and nephews, my friends and their kids live. So using my phone to connect with them is very important, and that definitely feels the best.
Agreed. Yeah, I think social media gets a lot of hate, right? Like, because there are some negatives, and those negatives are huge, and so we think about it a lot and we worry about it a lot. But I've always thought that is such an amazing piece of social media. Is the people that I've met traveling. You connect on Instagram, you connect on Facebook or what have you, and that's someone that you really do get a glimpse into their life for years on end. That if I would never stay in touch with them otherwise, it's just. They were great people, but you wouldn't like call them on the phone or anything. And so it's a really amazing way to say, oh, that person's a great person. And it's really cool to kind of have that quick snapshot of something that's going on in their life. And I've even gone to some of their countries and just reached out on social media and said, hey, like, I'm in the neighborhood. Do you want to go grab a coffee? And it's been really cool to catch up. And you just would never have done that otherwise. So I agree. Connection is just massive. For kiddos, it's not as big, right? Because we don't always want them on social media, especially at a young age. But for teenagers, it's everything, right? You want to be, you want to know everything that's going on with your friends all the time. Today, we're looking a little bit more at younger kids. And so let's be honest, like for the vast majority of us, our kids are going to have some screen time. I know there's some parents out there who are like, no screen time, never, ever. But for the vast majority of us, we're going to use it as a reward or as simply a break for mom and dad if it's been a hectic day with work or with the kids, or really just part of your daily routine. And I'm certainly not here to demonize that as long as the access to the screen time is part of a balanced lifestyle. Even if it's good screen time, your kids can't be on it all the time. And I think we all know that, right? There's got to be lots of time outside. It's got to be reading together. Arts and crafts are key. it really is that part of that whole balance and moderation. But there are
Yeah.
tremendous benefits to screen time as well, right? So it can help calm kids down when they're feeling anxious. It can be a tremendous reward for them. And of course, it can be educational. Like we kind of
Mhm.
forget that because our kids are obviously really excited about Avengers and Batman and Lego and all these things that don't always have a tremendous amount of educational value. They're just really entertaining, which is fine too, right? But if they're doing that a lot, then it's an excellent opportunity to really prioritize the good stuff and not just rely on that really like flashy, exciting stuff that sit your kids in front of.
Yeah, Paw
And
Patrol.
yeah, right.
Right?
And so there are some benefits I would say to Paw Patrol too, because it's teamwork and it's friendship, and there are moral lessons in there. But you can take it to the next level, of course, right?
Mhm.
And that's things like Khan Academy Kids. For parents out there that haven't
Okay.
seen it, it's fabulous. So Khan Academy I think it was just someone's uncle who he did lessons on YouTube for his nieces and nephews, and they were just so concise and so well done that it became this big hit, and kids all over the world were using these. And so,
I
have
used
you
Khan
heard of this?
Academy when I was in university. Yeah,
Totally,
totally.
totally. It's
It's
amazing, right?
it was amazing. It was so helpful.
Yeah,
He had like tons of math lessons and also programming lessons. And having done the computer science program, Khan
yeah, and
Academy
just
was my friend.
totally. And so he's built a foundation now, and they have an app for kids it's free. It's absolutely outstanding. And
That's very
so
cool.
it's fun to play. It's really intuitive for little kids, but it gives them lots of like early letter sound recognition. It's giving them, simple math concepts. It even gets them to move their body. So like every once in a while, one of the exercises is like to get up and act like a monkey, or like do something fun so that they're not just sitting there.
Yeah,
Exceptional, free. If my kids love it. There's lots of art that's built in as well. So there's a real creative element to it. And so even though your kids are engaging with screen time, they're not just sitting there consuming it. They really are
Mhm.
interacting with the content. They're really learning those core skills that are going to help them in school. And when you think about when kids are coming into school, if they don't have any of those skills, and parents are saying, okay, it's just that's a teacher's job. Like they should
Right.
know that's where they learn their letters. That's where they learn math. While that's true, if your kids are ahead of the game, if they're getting some of that practice before they even get into school, the research is just overwhelming that it's so much easier for them. They have more confidence early. They feel like I'm good at this. I like school. And that mindset carries out through almost their entire school career. And so the earlier you start on these concepts, the more fun that they have at school, the more that they learn, the further they can go with those teachers. It's just massive. And honestly, even if you don't know this stuff as a parent, like maybe English isn't your first language, Khan Academy Kids is just fabulous for that.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's
there's yeah, and there's lots of other ones, but Khan Academy is the one that I think is the best that I've seen. But there are
yeah.
games like Prodigy, which is a math game with wizards, and it's very very popular Canadian company, and they have a free version and a paid version. But
Hmm.
again, just a game that kids really enjoy playing. Lots of gamification built
Yeah.
in, so it is very video gamey. But again, there's lots of video games out there with no educational content. You might as well pick one that has an educational element.
Yeah,
um,
and I think especially with right now with, so many kids being out of school now for the holidays, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like they were out a little earlier than normal perhaps. So they've still got another 2, maybe 2 and a bit weeks, of no schooling, and so, it would be very understandable for parents and caregivers, um, to be maybe resorting to their kids using a lot more screen time than they normally would. And so, yeah, maybe using these more educational
Absolutely.
resources is a great compromise and a great way to strike that balance still.
Absolutely. And it can be a really stressful time for people too, right? Like as joyous as it is to see everybody, it's big dinners, there's shopping for gifts, there's all this stuff that kind of goes into the holiday where parents sometimes need that break, right? And so
Mhm.
instead of just sitting your kid in front of a movie, there are some other options out there that can be really good. And that can be things like YouTube Kids has some great stuff. Netflix has things like Krat Brothers, which my kiddos love. Um, like Planet Earth is an amazing,
Yeah.
just an amazing documentary that your kids can get into. And so, actually, I should mention Cosmic Kids Yoga is on YouTube as well, and it's outstanding, right? So it's really kid centric yoga. So it's fun, it's great for their body, and it's fabulous for their self regulation as well because there's lots of breathing exercises. There's
Mm.
lots of following those calm yoga instructions. So it's this interesting mix of being a perfect solution for kids who need to move their body, but it's also a great fix for kids who need to calm their body. And so it really
Mm.
is this like
Yeah.
fabulous balance, and they do a great job about really connecting it to like Harry Potter or there's like this is Cosmic Kids for puppies or like it's just
Mm.
it's incredibly well done.
Yeah.
And very, very popular. So that's a good one if you need your kids to get moving, they need to move their bod. That one's a lot of fun. And
Wonderful.
then and then of course you got to get in there. And so I know I've been saying a lot like parents need a break sometimes, and that's why we put our kids in front of a screen. But again, research has shown time and time again that kids get a lot out of educational screen time when an adult is sitting there with them. Uh, and
Mhm.
and really um, really that has a lot to do with like that guidance and that emotional support and that collaboration. And so if they get stuck on something, you're there to help them. And so again, that confidence comes up. They're not as worried. They're not getting as frustrated. And just that connection, right? Just being there. They know it's a safer place because some of these things are
Mm.
challenging for kids, right? Like anything you don't know can get really frustrating. And so having an adult there who loves them is very comforting. So it can be a break, but also do your best to get in there and snuggle with your kiddo as much as you can,
Yeah.
um, and really enjoy that downtime together. And when you're working on that positive screen time. So again, it's about balance. I know
Yeah.
sometimes you can't always be sitting next to your kiddos, um, but yeah, it's important if you can find the strength within you. You got to get in there because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and
Um,
I like framing it that way too, like, screen time for your kids doesn't have to mean them sitting, over on the couch by themselves while you do things you need to do. It can still be downtime for you, but more engaged and involved downtime and just sitting next to them and just watching. Maybe you don't even need to, maybe they don't need help, but just to be there for sure. Very powerful and
totally.
meaningful experience.
And have you noticed that with your nieces and nephews at all, where when they're working together, the two of them, or like when kids are working together on a screen, there tends to be a lot of debate and there's a lot of learning that's going on there too about like, what
Mhm.
are we doing next or whose turn is it? Like those are real social lessons for them. And
Yeah.
so with a parent, like that collaboration around screen time is really important. And so I don't know, have you seen that with your nieces and nephews as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, and especially with my one of my nephews that lives in Kamloops, so I get to see him quite often, and he is 4, he'll be 5 in February, and he's definitely at that age where he loves puzzles, and he loves to talk through them, and he loves to involve he's like, "Auntie, come do a puzzle with me," or, "Grandma, come do a puzzle," and he loves to, like, talk out loud and problem solve with you. And even another nephew here in Kamloops is 11, so he's really into video games. But he also just like loves when one of us will come over and watch him play, and he loves to like talk us through. Okay, this
Yeah.
character, that's a bad guy, and you gotta make this move to combat him, and just loves to like get people involved and happy to sit there and watch. But it is, yeah, I definitely noticed that they crave that connection.
Yeah, and that's a huge literacy tool, right? Being able to retell that story. So you can see that there's comprehension there. So he
Mhm.
actually, because sometimes kids can read or learn a story without actually comprehending what's going on. They're just kind of practicing the words. And so yeah, being able to retell that story and being excited about that story is really important. And then again, it's that connection, right? So they're doing an individual activity, but you're able to share it with them, and
Yeah,
that's massive.
yeah.
And just it's just fun too, right? Like it makes it a lot more fun for them if they're that excited and they get to share that excitement.
Totally, and it's low overhead, for the viewer,
Oh
to
yeah,
just observe and just cheer them on.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, that's like 90% of parenting. Cheer them on, right? Make sure that they
Yeah,
have, make sure that they have self value, like they know that they have tremendous value, I think you can screw up a lot of things as a parent as long as you're a good cheerleader.
Yeah, love
um,
that.
yeah, and so one of the things we always do on the show too is we kind of say, okay, like how do you engage your kids in this process, right? And it really, because it really helps empower them, and it really makes it easier for parents too. If you're not just, you're saying this is the way it is, and you get all that pushback. And so, what are some of the questions that you can ask your kids to engage them and empower them in this process of creating a more positive screen time part of their day? And so some of the questions you can ask are things like, do your friends have favorite math and reading games? Or is there a math and reading game that you use at school that you really enjoy? And that's a nice piece too, because a lot of school districts will have subscriptions to reading and numeracy games that the license is available to parents as well. It's just not always communicated. So that's kind of a nice way that if your son or daughter is working on something, you can check in with their teacher to see if you have access to that as well. And so that's a really nice one. Um, and then you could just do like probing inquiry questions, which I think kids are really into. So like just saying like, what's the number one educational app? Like, what do you think the number one educational app for kids is? Or like, what do you think the top 5 apps for making you the smartest person are? Like do those lists. And so they can be like, oh, I think it's this, or I think number 2 is this. Like it's kind of a game. And then of course you can go in and investigate together and be like, oh, which one do you think looks cool? Or which one do you think would be the best? And well, maybe we should play that, right? And just really start to flip it. So it's like, you're almost starting out like a game. Like you're trying to figure this thing out together.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great
and
idea.
yeah, and I think that helps parents too, because we don't always know which app is any good or which ones our kids would be interested in. And
Mhm.
so I have no doubt that you would find some apps as a parent that you probably have never heard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I love the idea that like arts and crafts is huge. Kids obviously have access, hopefully, to like lots of paper and crayons and stuff. And my kids do, but they still love coloring and creating things on the iPad, right? And
Mhm.
so that is screen time, right? And they are fully absorbed with it, but it's very creative. Like they're using, it's not Photoshop, right? But it has all of these amazing tools. They can adjust them. Like it really is this really cool artistic activity for them to do, and it is just for whatever reason that screen interaction is really engaging for them. And
Mhm.
so you can really look into different music or art or video apps that allow kids to play with these things. Um, and so again, like I think we think of screen time as just movies and shows, and it really isn't. Like there's a lot of really cool creative stuff out there that kids can play with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you made a good point with that too. Like, with one iPad, you can expose your child to a lot of different artistic mediums. Instead of buying a keyboard and buying, an expensive painting set. They have an app for everything. So if your kid is like interested in any given instrument or any given medium of painting or coloring, you can probably just download the app for that. And
Yeah, and it's a really low bar to try it, right? Like if you wanted your child to try, 10 different instruments, that's really difficult, right? Like you don't want to buy a trombone. like buy a stand-up bass, right? Like that they're just you don't know if your kid's going to like it or anything, or piano, right? They're huge. So this at least gives them a little bit of exposure to be like, okay, well that thing was cool. And then you can go to the next level if you think your
exactly.
child would enjoy it. So yeah, no, I've opened up a bit. I think we as parents were like very skittish about screen time, just like every new parent. We're like, no, no, no. And then it was Khan Academy Kids was really the first thing that opened us up to like, okay, like even if they spend 20 minutes on this is all great stuff. It
Mhm.
was very, very positive screen time for our kiddos. So it was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, as always, shout out to Kermode. They don't. I mean, that's about as positive screen time as you can get for older kids. So we've talked a lot about smaller kids, but when you're an older kid, you're going to be right into like researching things online um, or social media or what have you, and you're going to see a lot of news. And so mixing in something like Kermode that's really positive screen time for your kids for that older age, because now they're doing that critical thinking about all that information that they're seeing and asking those really important questions and building those digital literacy skills. And so that's a nice option for older kids, of course.
Yeah, it's so important. So again, I think for parents to get involved and even say like, what did Kermode say about that article that you were reading, or that current news event. Let's look into it together. Let's plug that into Kermode together and just fact check things.
Totally. And I've heard that all the time is when talking to parents and kind of going over some of the things that Kermode does. It's often like parents don't know these things either, right? Like confirmation bias and how it affects the algorithms, and a lot of this stuff is really new and complicated. And so parents being able to explore it with their kids, it really helps everybody. So Kermode is a good one for the older kids of all ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paige, have you actively, like when you look at your screen time, like do you monitor your screen time at all? Like how much often do I spend on this app or this app? And have you ever sort of actively thought, okay, how do I make adjustments to this? Or how do I do better screen time? How do I do screen time better?
A little bit. I don't monitor it on a very granular level, so I don't know offhand, what I spend on any given app during the week. I do get that notification, every Sunday that says your screen time was up or down this percent,
Yeah.
and it is always like, holy smokes, how do I
Totally.
spend that much
Yeah.
time on my screen during a day?
Yeah.
But a couple of things that I have done, like I know Instagram is definitely my social media tool of choice.
Yeah.
And so to minimize even just like that mindless scrolling where, I've had seasons of life where I open my phone and just out of habit, I go and I click on Instagram. So I've actually removed the Instagram icon from my home screen. So if I want to go into Instagram, I have to go into search and I have to search Instagram, and it's still downloaded, but it's just not so readily clickable. So, or there's been times where I've just deleted the apps altogether. Like I can take a month off. I'm not going to miss on anything too big. I can delete Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's a very positive. That's a very positive move, right? It's knowing that, okay, I don't need that, and then taking a step to rectify it. And it, like you say, like those simple steps can make a huge difference. Just not having it right in your face when you open your phone is excellent.
Yeah. What about you, Sean? What do you do to try to manage your screen time?
Yeah, very similar actually. I would say like when that Sunday report popped up, I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe that. The number that had popped up for me, and I think Instagram was the highest, and I felt like I didn't use it that much at all. But then like when I started to think about it, it's like if I have a half an hour, I'm especially at the end of the day before I pick my kids up from school, I just want to zone out and just scroll, and just whatever pops up is just fine. And I did do that. And so the steps I took, I didn't delete it. I thought about it, but I was like, you know what? I should just be more disciplined. That was my first move. And then I wasn't. And so then I started to say, okay, I have a stretching routine that I do every day. And so I was like, okay, before you hit Instagram, you have to do your stretching routine, which takes like 15 minutes. And so it eats up most of that time that I would have just been scrolling mindlessly. So
right.
Yeah, that
That's
works.
smart.
That's been pretty effective so far.
For sure. Yeah, it's a good way to do it, to kind of use social media or, screen time as a reward for doing something that you need to do and is really good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was my strategy for Instagram. But yeah, it is addictive. I don't know.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And that's like, for our fully developed brains. So I think it's important to just like reserve a lot of empathy for our kids that are like using these apps that are designed to be addictive. It is tough. So have a little bit of grace with them, and also, try to pivot the screen time to some more healthy and engaging apps when we can.
Agreed.
Okay, so Sean, I want to ask you, I have heard about something called Chat GPT. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so it kind of exploded this last week or two. And so it's a chatbot that is sort of the cutting edge of AI, and they just released it for free. And you can ask it some pretty amazing questions, and it comes back with incredible answers. So things like you can ask it like, what are threats to the publishing industry? Give me 1,000-word essay, and it will do that, like to the number, in like blink of an eye. And
Wow.
as someone in publishing, I read it, and it is very it's not in depth, right? Like it is umbrella, but honestly, you'd probably get a C plus or a B minus. You
Oh
know,
my
like
goodness.
it's not bad. And then it does these incredible things where you could say, okay, now write it like Shakespeare, like in a Shakespeare voice, and it
Yeah.
will. Like thou art publishing industry, whatever. Or then you could say, okay, do it in rhyming couplets, and it will
Yeah.
do that. Blink of an eye.
Wow.
It is pretty breathtaking. And so in the education circles, it's been like, oh wow, this is a problem, because that's not even plagiarism. Like it's creating something new. And so it's really hard to track, right? With plagiarism, you can basically plug something that you think a student didn't write into Google, and it'll say, oh yeah, here it is on Wikipedia or in this article. But
Right.
with this is original content. And so everyone in education was like, like this is really scary, because kids can get a C plus, by hitting a button.
Yeah.
And for me, like that's a valid concern, I guess. But I would say that we should really be moving towards better ways of assessing kids' knowledge anyway. Like papers are fine, and kids should do them, but it should be part of a much more robust, like they should be doing presentations, they should be doing debates, they should be doing videos if they want, they should be doing art if they
Mhm.
want, different ways to show their knowledge. And then teachers should be able to come back to them and ask them questions about what they are saying they know, and go deeper, and go in different directions, and personalize it and say, okay, well, we're going to talk about density. We're going to talk about like city density. What does that mean to you? What does that mean in your community? And so that's something that an AI
Mhm.
chatbot can't touch, because that's personal. That's your view, right? And so
Right.
and hopefully we're kind of moving away from that sort of generic paper as a way to assess kids' knowledge anyway. I think we've done that for a long time, and it's not like it's valueless, but it's there's much better ways to do it anyway. And
Right.
so I hope people don't see it as a threat to education, because I feel like if you think it's a threat to education, then you're not varying the way you assess your kids enough anyway, because not
Okay. I like.
everyone can write papers. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So no need to
But it is
panic.
very cool.
Panic.
Yeah, no need to panic, but it is very cool. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just go play
Yeah.
with it. It's amazing. It
Okay.
is it is crazy.
Yeah. AI is like, I've seen all the art. Everyone is getting their pictures, their self-portraits done by AI, and all,
Oh
all these
yeah.
different themes and versions. And
Yeah,
yeah, AI is it is breathtaking. That's the
it
perfect word
is.
to describe the
It
things that
is.
AI
I
can
don't
do.
know. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
wild. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know where it's going to take us. It's very interesting to see, but the jumps are incredible. Um,
Yes.
so yeah,
Yeah.
if you have to go, then I don't mind wrapping this up. But if you have time for the question, that's fine. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the
Okay.
current event.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Okay. So yeah, we've been talking a little bit about teens using social media, and it's great to see this article that was recently posted. And it sounds like overall a lot of teens are seeing social media as a positive thing, which is wonderful.
Yeah, actually, that goes right back to what we talked about at the start, what you were saying about that connection. And so, again, yeah, we hear all these sad, horrible things about social media, and that really dominates the way we think about it. But what that article explored was, it was really cool. Like it was like, oh well, the majority of teens were like, I love the connection, or I find a group that I can't find in my school or my community. So like if you're struggling with something emotionally, or something that you don't feel like you can talk to anybody, then you can talk to somebody in Brazil who's going through the same thing. And it's
Mhm.
that's incredible, right? And it doesn't even have to be something you struggle with. Maybe you're really into art or music or dance or acting, and you're in a place or in a family or in a community that's not the number one thing. You can fully connect with that community online quite easily these days. And that's so fabulous. Can you imagine being a kid struggling with something and you felt like you were alone? or even
Yeah,
just someone who had a dream and you were alone, like no one was there to support you or cheer you on. I mean,
for
it is a
sure.
truly amazing, and I think that that research, that report in that article really illustrated that. The kids see that. They're like, "No, I think it's great." So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, it's not, and I love that the kids are, like, able to acknowledge that even, that they are valuing from the connection, brought to them through social media, so that is a great spin on things because you're right, we do hear a lot about the negative impacts of social media, particularly on teens, so
We do. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's out there, but there's some good stuff too.
Yeah, I love that. Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much, Sean. I feel like we covered a lot of really great ground today, as always.
Yeah, thank you.
So it was wonderful having you with us, and I hope that you enjoy lots of time, both some valuable on-screen time with your kids and lots of hopefully wonderful off-screen time as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paige. Happy holidays, and lovely to see you as always. And happy holidays, to everybody out on the internet there. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Okay, so that's our live stream for today, folks. We will be back in the new year, so stay tuned for our upcoming live stream in January of 2023. In the meantime, subscribe to Kermode YouTube channel to keep up to date with our show and all the awesome updates coming out of Kermode Education. They're always posting really great articles as well, so go and check those out. And if you would like more information on Kermode and how it can help you, your family, your school, your public library become smarter, safer, and kinder digital citizens, contact their wonderful team at info@kermodeeducation.com or visit www.kermodeeducation.com. Thanks for joining us and have a wonderful holiday season. Bye, everybody.